Hello, everyone. I'm Jen, and welcome to another episode of Monogamish Pod. On this week's episode, I'll be answering that very big question that's been in your minds. Girl, where the fuck have you been? And I'm going to get into it. I'm going to start out just letting you know exactly where I have been. More or less just in the house and then outside doing touristy things because between January and February, I had 3 different people coming to visit me and stay for extended periods of time, not just a night or two. So I had to be out there entertaining. So fitting time in with work, fitting time in with the podcast, and out there in these streets. So one of my best friends came, another really good friend of mine came, and then my mom came. And of course, when mommy's here, you got to spend time with her. So when my last episode dropped on the 9th, that was right after my mom got here, and I decided to just zero in, spend all that time with her. I anticipated maybe the episode will be a bit late, the following 2 weeks, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? I was wrong. I was very wrong. So I was like, cool. I got the episode together. We're going to make something happen. It's going to be great. Technical difficulties. The 2 words that no one ever wants to hear once you're involved in actually doing what you do, it was bad. Like my software stopped working. My laptop was giving me these little uncomfortable sounds and glitching and start and restart. And if I were to tell you all the things that were happening to me, you'd think I was lying. That's how bad it was. And so there's a certain point in time where I had to like even switch methods entirely. And then time the release episode passed, I was like, you know what? Just forget it. I'll get it the following week. I had a great interview with a polyamorous man named Dennis. I was like, yeah, I'm going to drop that. How do you access the files, Jen? With the software. What is the software doing? Bugging. So you all know, maybe you don't. I have 3 different podcasts, right? So I have Monogamish Pod, which we're listening to. I have the Blacherettes, and I also have Stacked, which has been on hiatus for some time. Don't ask questions. So tell me why we record Splatcherette's episode, get it into the software. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to edit Monogamish Pod first, get to Blatcher. Nope. Software's like, no, baby, we don't do that. We don't do that. Whole thing just can't open a single file, just no files whatsoever. And so, like, for Blatcherette's, I actually had to, like, just not edit it. And if you know me, that I don't really operate like that, but I had to just like not edit it just to release it. And for the Monogamish Pod episode, it has to be edited. It was video. Like I had to edit it. I had to put it in cards. I had to do all these things. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And again, just more time passed. And then then here we are. After that more time passed, I was like, maybe you need this break anyway. Maybe you just need this time to recoup, to having people stay over and in your space and just like recenter with yourself, decide what it is that you're doing with the pod. Because I told you at the beginning of season 3, we're going deeper, we're trying harder, we're getting out there. And I think that vulnerability is also super scary. By the way, just putting that out there, really freaking scary. But in the same breath, I also want to be careful about the stories that I'm curating and including in this season of the podcast. The conversation with Dennis, definitely coming up, definitely coming out. I decided to put this one out first so I can give you the rundown of what's been happening and what's going to happen going forward. So, on top of all of the technical stuff, spring is coming, it's getting warmer outside, let's go out and do stuff. Yeah, spring is a lie. Spring is still a lie. I don't really know what else to say. Spring is a lie. It's like it was 39 degrees today. And a couple of weeks ago it was in the 70s. So I'm just not a fan, not a fan. Who told me to move to cold country? I didn't sign up for weather like this. I guess I did on a technicality, but this is not what I want. I don't want that. But I also do because I love DC. I love where I live. Like if you've been paying attention, you know I moved from Florida to DC in November, and it's been a pretty much go, go, go ever since then. So I'm glad that I had this time to settle and not work on the pod, but also still work on the pod behind the scenes. Like Andrea Martucci of the Shelf Love podcast helped me set up this great Notion workspace to help me keep my podcast ideas organized and track the different projects, prepping for the interview, recording the interview, editing the interview, releasing the interview. Like it's been super helpful actually. I even put in there that I need to go to the post office, which I always forget to check my PO box. So this little thing has really been helping me and keeping me focused and getting my ideas in one place so that I can execute and track everything instead of using Google Docs and jotting things down in random notebooks like I have been. So I'm really grateful to Andrea for this. And this is not like plugging Andrea or Notion, but also it's been really a lifesaver for me. But there's that. Anyway, like I said, it's been getting warmer. We're going outside more, or I should be, and I will be as things get warmer. I do have a great friend coming to visit me over Easter, and we're going to have so much fun. I'm excited for it. Even though I know April will still be chilly, a little bit chilly since April starts on Friday, I am just hoping that the weather gets warm fast so I can get these butt cheeks out there in the sunshine, booty shorts and sandals and sneakers and shit. I want to do all of it. That's what I want to do. So looking forward to that. Daylight savings time is over, or is it's over, right? Because it ends in March and starts in November, I think. That sounds right. And then we're going to be abolishing daylight savings time anyway. Thank the Lord for that. That also is a huge struggle for me going from daylight savings to no daylight savings in addition to full moon wonkiness, and I don't even wanna tell you about that. I don't even wanna tell you about that, but that's pretty much where I've been, what's been going on, and some mild health issues. If you know me really well, then you know about those things. I probably talk more about them on the Patreon as we go forward, but feeling a bit better, like I said, focused, organized, ready to go. So first things first, I wanna talk about what I'm doing for Monogamish Pod. I feel like you wanna hear that before I get into any other quote unquote fluff stuff. So first things first, there's a Patreon, right? Bloopers and behind the scenes stuff and special episodes and photos and things, just general happenings in my life. Going to be updating more stuff on the Patreon. You can get subscribed for as low as $3 a month. I'll put the links, of course, in the show notes and talk about it more at the end. That's number one. Number two is I'm working on a Monogamish Pod newsletter. I find that sometimes in some months we have episodes like constantly, some we have like very little. And sometimes there's a lot of stuff happening in pop culture and just general things in the verse that we could be talking about on the pod that you may have missed if you're not officially caught up. So I'm going to be doing a monthly newsletter for Monogamish Pod. I'm going to be including the episodes I did for the month, including whatever Patreon stuff is available, just like hints, not like full things, not like full write ups. Going to be talking about where I or the podcast was featured for that month. I'm going to be talking about what's happening in pop culture again, just briefly, not like anything too detailed. Maybe there'll be something special, maybe there won't. Who's to say? Who's to say? Newsletter is about to get popping. I have some great ideas and great contributions to it already. And of course, I'll be giving a hint for what's coming in the following month because I tend to record my interviews at least a couple of weeks out. So the schedule for April is pretty much already set and I already know it's coming out. So just put that out there, just let you know this is the thing that is happening. The newsletter is going to be the last day of every single month. So if it were coming out in March, it would be March 31st, which is Thursday. So once a month, that's it. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, there, of course, is a mailing list sign up. I'll include the link to that in the show notes. You can do it through Google Form if that's easier, or I have it on our link tree. It works totally fine either way. So that's a newsletter. Two things that I've included in my Patreon membership is access to my close friends list on Instagram and also a Discord server. So I decided to actually open up the Discord server to everyone. The patrons will still have like your very own like unique section, but there is a wider Discord server that is available for everyone to get on to talk all things podcast, non-monogamy, polyamory, whatever you want to talk about that's related to the topics that I cover on the show or that you want me to cover on the show, we get to talk about that on Discord. Link again will be in the show notes. It's been super fun setting it up. I was never really a Discord person, but I think it is such an easy way to communicate with you like on a regular basis. It gives you access to me to a certain length and also access to other monogamish pod listeners. Because I think the thing with podcasts sometimes that can be so isolating. Listen to a podcast alone, you don't know if anyone else does, or you tell your friends and you and one friend talks about it. But what if you have other ideas that your friends don't share that you want to talk more about? This way, you have a little monogamish pod community. You can talk to them on the Discord, share your ideas, get those thoughts out there, and I think it's great. I think it's fun. I'm a part of other Discord servers, going from a Discord never used to like being on like 4 or 5 different servers. Clearly, I'm a boss. I've got this. But I think it'll be really fun if you are a Discord user and you listen to Monogamish Pod. Link, like I said, will be in the show notes. If you're not a Discord user and listen to Monogamish Pod and you want to sign up, I can also help walk you through that. So that's no problem. I got you. Now, access to the close friends list. Again, I've kept that strictly for Patreon and a couple of other like key people. That's really who gets that access. But I'm also willing to open it up a bit more to the outside, but it's gonna have to come at like a cost. And I hate charging money for things like this, like charging money for access in certain ways. But a part of what happens on the close friends list are like things that are very intimate, near and dear to me, and also things that are specific to Patreon or specific to certain private topics or like more exclusive conversations, I will say. And so, if you do want access to the close friends list on Instagram, there is a way to do that. It is going to be like a $20 donation to help keep the podcast lights on, keep everything running. And you put your Instagram handle in the comment for when you send the $20, whether it's on Cash App or Venmo. If you cannot use those options and you need my PayPal, let me know and I can give you my PayPal link as well. But I'm primarily accepting these through Cash App and through Venmo. And to do that, send the $20 over with your IG handle. I will add you to the close friends list. Sounds good? Sounds great. I didn't want to make it like too expensive, but I think that $20 is like a solid medium and you're never going to be removed from the list unless you're being harmful or some kind of hate speech or things like that. You're not going to be removed from the close friends list. You're just always going to be on it as long as it exists. So if that's something you want, you can send that over to my Cash App or my Venmo. Have you met Jen? Again, include those things in the show notes and make sure you put your IG handle in there and I will send it over to you ASAP. You'll get access to that exclusive content pretty much immediately. What else is happening with me and the podcast? I've appeared on several other podcasts as a guest. So I was on Black and Kinky's podcast in February talking about polyamorous terms and being queer in Jamaica. And that was a super fun conversation. I've had Bomber and Bella on the podcast before. Bomber and I had a great chat on Black and Kinky. So if you've already listened to the conversation with Bomber and I, shout out to you. That's going to be, of course, listed on the website under the guest appearances section. I always have the latest appearances on there once the episode drops. I keep it updated. And of course, I will include the link in the detailed show notes. You can just click it, give it a listen. Like I said, Bomber and I have great podcast chemistry. I think it's super fun. The other podcast that I was on is the Sweet Baby Gate podcast with Abby and Autumn. Abby and I had a really fun conversation about my queerness, my polyamorous life, and also we got into a bit about reality dating shows because we're both huge fans of the Bachelor franchise and Love is Blind. So that was a really great talk. It was split into two parts, that episode. So again, those links are where in the show notes. I feel like I'm just saying that a lot. They're there. The links are there, also in the guest appearances, also in the detailed show notes on the website, monogamishpod.com. You can absolutely find those there. Another podcast that I was featured on recently is Not Another Kinky Cast with Aoife Dio and Archangel. A really great conversation. We covered a lot of topics. I may have gone too hard in some parts, not gonna lie. But can't wait for you to hear that episode. It should be out by the time this episode drops. Don't quote me. But if it is, I'm going to include it in the detailed show notes. If it's not, it'll be updated on the guest appearances page on the website as soon as it is. Those are my guest appearances that have happened just since I've been gone. Since I've been gone. Yeah, I probably should cut that out, but I won't. Y'all get to get the real me. The last topic I'm going to be covering overall, what's happening in this episode, where I've been, what's going on, is what's happening in pop culture. Y'all know Monogamish Pod, edutainment, using pop culture, interviews, the whole nine yards, to talk about non monogamy and polyamory. I'm going to talk about some things I don't really want to talk about, just so you know, just to let, let everyone hear what's going on. I'll give you from a reference also for when I recorded this episode. Okay? So I'm going to start off heavy and get lighter. If you watched the Oscars, or even if you didn't watch the Oscars, you know that there was an incident between Chris Rock and Will Smith over a joke, tasteless joke, honestly, made about Jada, who has been open about her struggles with alopecia. I'm not going to rehash the joke. I'm not going to talk about whether or not it was warranted, not any of those things. What I am going to talk about is the conversation that's been happening online where people are slut shaming Jada and making fun of Will, like, oh, so you could do that to Chris Rock. Where was that energy for August Alsina? Oh, why would you fight for someone like her? Like, she's loose, she's in the street, she's a whore, she cheated on you. And it's giving fuck shit. It's giving fuck shit. This side of commentary is just fucking ridiculous. Will and Jade have come out and talked about what they want to talk about. in their relationship. They have expressed that there were some entanglements, there were some non monogamous interactions that were consensual in their marriage. And honestly, that should be the end of the conversation. So, why are you shaming Jada and making fun of Will for her and them engaging in consensual non monogamous interactions? Like, what's up with that? Let's unpack that for a second. Is a woman's value somehow lessened because she sleeps with more than one man? I If that's the case, then why listen to my podcast? I've definitely slept with more than one man. What's going on there? Has my value lessened in some way? Am I less of a woman? Am I someone who's not worthy of admiration, care, love, protection because of that? Really think about what you're saying. Yeah, really think about it. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into it. This is just a gloss on top of the situation. Of course, it's much more complex than I led myself to be. And I'm speaking specifically about the non monogamous and polyamorous and derogatory ways in which people are speaking about non monogamous and polyamorous women and their right to be loved, cared for, protected, defended, etc. by the people who love them. I see that shit online. I'm making note of who's saying it. I blocked a bunch of fuckers. Imma keep doing that. That's the end of it. If you're having consensual, non-monogamous interactions, if you have an agreement, a relationship agreement where you and your partner are non-monogamous, that's between them. And again, you don't even know what's really happening in their marriage. Like, I know we have learned a lot of things against our will about Will and Jada throughout this pandemic and this entire process and them opening up about their lives and their journeys even more. But none of those things make it okay for you to be talking about them the way you are right now. Just wanna say my piece on that. That's all I'm gonna say. Shanae Jackson Kendall has a really great Twitter thread on this. I will link it in the comments, and so many people have said much smarter things than I. I will link them in the comments. I am not the expert in this situation. This is just my opinion, and I'm saying that I'm noting what y'all are saying, I'm blocking accordingly, and will never interact with certain people again. That's a fact. Now that I've talked about that water cooler moment, let's talk about other things happening. So, I don't know if y'all have the Roku channel. If you don't, you should. It's free. They have a series on there called Poly, talking about polyamory. And I was super excited to see it. The episodes are really short. It's only about 10 minutes long per episode. And I don't know if y'all are into me covering it more on the podcast, on the Patreon, talking about it more in the Discord. It's up to y'all, but I think it was a really interesting watch. Again, it's nothing like earth-shattering, like groundbreaking work into polyamory, but it is great work around polyamory. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it, Poly, on the Roku channel. That's number 1. Number 2, Dirty Lola, who is a great polyamorous educator, all-around fabulous human, badass, gorgeous, is on The Principles of Pleasure, which dropped on Netflix, talking about that big O for women and vagina holders. I'm going to link to the article about Principles of Pleasure and link to Dirty Lola's page as well so you can give her a follow. She's just an amazing resource, fabulous human. Watch Principles of Pleasure. It's very eye opening. It makes you think about sex and orgasms and your body in a way that I never have before. I'm just being super frank about that. I learned some shit watching Principles of Pleasure, and I think you will too. So check that out. And then, of course, Good Trouble is back on Freeform. And we know last season, Malika ended up in a polyamorous relationship with Devante. Malika's a black woman, Devante's a black man. And so Malika's boyfriend, what's his name again? Isaac, right? AKA drove him insecure. She told him she was having these polyamorous feelings. He was like, nah, I can't do this. And she was like, listen, it can just be me and you. I can put these feelings to the side. He said, nah, fucked off to London and left her. So what did old girl do? She got her shit. She got her shit. She and Devante got together. She's in a cordial, cool relationship with her metamor, Devante's other partner. And Homegirl's also exploring her sexuality. Yes, that's right. Malika found herself attracted to a woman, and she's exploring a queer relationship there as well. So she's polyamorous, like in a V. Is it a V? Yeah, it's a V. She's in a V with Devante and her girlfriend, whose name I really forgot. I'm so sorry, but she's also another woman of color. And it's just, yes, it's giving everything. And then guess who comes back, y'all? Isaac. Isaac brings his ass back and he was like, is that offer still on the table for it just be me and you? She's like, nah, my guy. That time has passed. It is not just me and you anymore. It is me, you, and my crew. Okay? If you cannot be polyamorous, please leave. And so I think that's the last we'll see of Isaac. I don't think he's ever going to come into this. And you know what? That's totally fine. You can't force people into being someone that they are not. If Isaac is not polyamorous, he does not need to practice polyamory. If Isaac is uncomfortable with his partner being polyamorous, then he needs to just go with a partner that he is equally yoked with. Someone who is not polyamorous, someone else who's monogamous, go ahead, do your thing. I think that's something we also need to talk about more. If you have a partner and you're monogamous and they're not monogamous and you don't want to date someone who's not monogamous, then just you got to move on. You got to move on. You got to go with someone that you're aligned with. And I think that's important. Okay. That's the pop culture moments. So the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that Shanae, yes, the Shanae I just mentioned already in this episode and who has been on Monogamish Pod 3 times already, that Shanae, we're putting on an event tomorrow, Thursday, March 31st at 9 p.m. called Poly After Dark. It is a fun, sexy, somewhat educational event where we're talking all things polyamory and we're also answering questions. So, how do you get into this event? Is probably what you're wondering. What's going to be on Zoom? But you do have to pay a $20 donation to get access to the Zoom registration link. We're charging a $20 donation to keep it close, personal, fun, sexy, and private. We are not releasing any of this online into the world. We're not recording anything. Nothing that we say is going to be really disclosed outside of that space. So sign up. You got to message Monogamish Pod. You can message me on Instagram at Monogamish Pod in the DMs, on Twitter at Monogamish Pod in the DMs. You can message me on Facebook DMs, Monogamish Pod, and I will send you the Cash App and Venmo links or PayPal if required. You donate your $20 and I will send you the Zoom or registration link so that you can sign up, show up, be there, support, be sexy. Shanae and I will be wearing lingerie. Just put that out there for anyone who cares. We will be looking very hot, very fine. It's part of the reason why grown sexy event. And we're doing it on the last day of the month because I think that's a great time to connect with people. Friday would be better, but Friday's also April Fool's. I didn't want to have anyone like think we were not putting on a real event on that day. I know some people don't believe in April Fool's jokes anymore. I don't want to risk it. So that's for sure something that is happening this Thursday. If you can make it, can't wait to see you there. Of course, I'll include the link to the Facebook invite in the show notes. It has all the information on there, how to access the really sexy flyer, which I'll be including as well. Like, you want to be there. You want to be a part of this. That's all I'm going to be talking about today. You can find, of course, this podcast, like I said, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on TikTok at Monogamish Pod. Do I post on TikTok all the time? Probably not. But I do watch a lot of things, and that counts. Thank you to everyone watching this on YouTube. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Monogamish Pod on YouTube, just go ahead, Monogamish Pod, YouTube, subscribe. You got this. Now let's talk about other ways in which you can support the podcast. Of course, we want you to tell all your friends about us. Let them hear the good word I am putting out in the universe and some wild shit that I say sometimes. Tell a friend about Monogamish Pod. Retweet our posts, like share. I love getting new listeners to the podcast. You're like, oh, wow, I never thought about this way before. And you explained it in a way I really appreciated. You can also send me an email or like a message in the DMs, just like saying how great I am. I love that. But if you want to be more public about it, you can definitely write us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's where a lot of people still somehow be listening to podcasts. Apple Podcasts setup is trash, being super honest. But that's where people are writing most of their reviews. You can do that on Apple Podcasts. Just read us, write us a review. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I'm using Podchaser right now, actually, which you can also do reviews for. Super great. And Spotify has a rating system. So you can go ahead and rate Monogamish Pod on Spotify as well. You can also support this podcast financially. You can donate on Cash App, on Venmo. You can also financially support using the Anchor support feature. Head on over to anchor.fm/monogamishpod and you can find the little support button. Press it. You can subscribe for as low as 99 cents a month. Of course, the Patreon, like I mentioned before, membership starts as low as $3 a month. Patreon.com/monogamishpod. It is an 18+ platform because sometimes I post some racy conversations on there. And I think that's important to have a safe space for that. So 18+, patreon.com/monogamishpod. There's that. You can also support us on Threadless, our merch shop. We do have merch out there. So it's monogamishpod.threadless.com, or if you go to monogamishpod.com, where you can get all the detailed show notes, links to everything, etc., you can just press a shop button and it will take you directly there. If you want to sign up for the Discord, for the newsletter mailing list, all of those things will be included in the detailed show notes at monogamishpod.com. So that's all I've got. Don't forget to show up tomorrow to support Poly After Dark with Shanae and I. Again, link for that in the show notes. Show up, support, show out, be sexy. It's been great talking to you. Next episode of the conversation will be with Dennis, so you can finally hear the interview I've recorded. But once again, I'm Jhen, and this is Monogamish Pod. Have a great night, y'all. Bye.